What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's episode of Empowered in Health. Today's topic we are diving right into is all around what do you talk to your doctor about if you feel like you're not yourself, something is off, but you're not really getting answers, you're not really getting direction. I'm going to tell you some stories this week about things that I've experienced in my own life, things that I've experienced with conversations I've had with other women, and just want to empower you to know that there are always ways to advocate for yourself, to ask different questions, and to kind of go deeper for your health, right? So this is where I want to start. I want to start a little bit around my specific story and kind of what I've been going through this year. I want to share some of the feedback and some of the conversations I've been seeing and hearing and having inside conversations with other women, and then give you some really tangible ways to ask the tough questions when it comes to potentially diving deeper for your health. And at the end of the day, if you're feeling like you are not getting where you want to, you're not getting where you need to, you're not getting answers, then don't be afraid to search for different practitioners. Don't be afraid to find a health coach or someone that can really guide you on what you may need specifically for your female physiology. So just to kind of give you a quick snapshot of my health journey this year, I turned 40 in January of last year, or I should say earlier this year, almost a year ago, because we are in December. And I don't know, things just started to really shift. They've been shifting for me over the past 3.5 years or so. But really in the past 6 months to a year, things have felt super different when it comes to my health and wellness. Everything has kind of felt harder. My mental health has felt harder to manage. Physical progress has felt really impossible. I've had really unexplained gut health issues, all kinds of symptoms from bloating to gas to unexplained things that I can't really decipher in my day-to-day life. And so I've really decided to pivot into going more towards functional medicine. And with that, I've had to really figure out what are the questions I need to be asking? What research do I need to be doing? How do I need to get educated about what my body might be needing in order to really help myself feel my best as my body and my health changes over time? And so this year I've gone a lot deeper with functional medicine support. So I've been working with a functional medicine doctor for the past handful of years. At the beginning of this year, I went through a full gut health protocol where I dove deeper. I did a stool test. I got a lot more data on what was happening inside my gut as far as different imbalances, did a gut protocol, really worked on food sensitivities and things like that, and got myself to feeling much better. But at the end of the day, when I still was evaluating what was kind of working, what wasn't, I still felt really big challenges in my health mentally and emotionally. And it just became this point where my hormones and my moods and all of the things felt so up and down month to month. The other big thing that was changing for me was my cycles, right? My cycles were either longer or shorter. They were really heavy and then they were not so heavy. Or, some months I had really intense symptoms, other months I didn't have any. And it was really hard to predict and understand what was happening with my body. And so because I've seen so much of the evolution in my own life, I want to continue to share with you because I think this is absolutely something all women go through to a degree, right? We're all on our own path and we all have different things that we're going through. However, we're all going to experience some level of health fluctuation, hormonal fluctuation, and changes in our bodies and our brains as we get into midlife, perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. Right? God willing, I will live to see all of these seasons. And so I want to really prepare myself and really educate not only myself, but my clients on what are the things that you can start to really do to advocate for yourself as you're going through these ebbs and flows. So as I was kind of managing this hormonal fluctuation, right, I went down the road with my functional medicine doctor to get very specific testing done. Now, this is what I want you to know, right? If you are doing hormonal testing, there's two things to understand. The first is working with a knowledgeable practitioner matters, right? You want to work with somebody that really understands women's health, that understands women's physiology, and that has a good grasp on hormone health, gut health, and what that means, right? How do you actually go inside out wellness? How do you get into root cause and really look at the bigger, deeper picture for what your body needs, because each of us is so unique, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is making sure that you are working with somebody who not only understands female physiology and hormone health, but also understands the strategy around how specific testing needs to be done, right? So if you want something like an indicator or a baseline or an understanding of your sex hormones, having those tested at very specific times during your cycle matters, right? Days 19 to 21 are the most ideal time to see what are your sex hormones at, right? Where are your levels at, and how can you essentially support your levels as needed based on any kind of discrepancies, imbalances, things along those lines, right? So that is one specific piece to really making sure you're getting what you need or getting what you're looking for, right? So working with a practitioner that's knowledgeable, also working with somebody that understands when the strategy behind the blood work matters, right? The other piece of that coin is working with somebody that can kind of help you go even deeper than that, right? So getting things like urine and saliva samples are also really crucial when it comes to getting the bigger picture of our health. So for me personally, I went through the Dutch test with my functional medicine practitioner, and I was able to uncover quite a few different things related to imbalances in my body, right? I was able to look at my sex hormones on a deeper level, my cortisol on a deeper level, and my insulin and things like that on a deeper level. And because I'm getting this bigger picture of my health, I've been able to really pinpoint what kinds of lifestyle changes have I had to make, what kind of supplements have I had to make, and what kind of nutritional changes have I had to make to really support my body as I've been changing and evolving over the past handful of years, and especially this year, right? So that has been something I've been working very closely with my doctor on, and it's something that I want to share more about with you in case you're feeling like, I just don't know where to get started, and I don't know how to get to the bottom of the answers that I'm looking for, because the doctors that I'm working with, or the people that I'm speaking to right now, are not really giving me deeper information. Here's what I want to share related to that. So I've had a couple conversations with different women who have gone to different doctors, mainly GPs and OBGYNs, or people that they see on a regular basis for different things, right? Like well checks, or someone that you've seen for, the female pieces to your story for however many years, right? And, every single doctor is different in the way of what they know, right? And so this is what I want to really share with you as far as empowered knowledge and scope of knowledge when it comes to working with practitioners. This is something that I've learned firsthand, and I've actually seen women also learn this firsthand as they're going through these processes, especially when it comes to perimenopause and hormonal shifts, and trying to figure out how do you best support your body as you're going through these things and kind of stepping into this season. Scope of knowledge matters with a practitioner. And, I've had women come to me and say, I went to my doctor and I told them my symptoms, and they just said, well, that's kind of how it goes. This is part of aging, welcome to your 40s, just deal with it. I've had other women that have shared with me that their doctors have recommended, well, let's just go on these specific medications, or let's just try these SSRIs for anything that feels really intense mentally and emotionally. Or doctors who give advice like, well, maybe you should stop doing this kind of exercise based on your female physiology, or maybe you should consider doing XYZ, whatever that may be, because you're getting older. And what I'm learning firsthand, and what I'm learning inside the Sync community that I'm a part of as a coach, and what I'm learning in my own personal journey is, again, it really comes down to working with a practitioner and speaking to someone who really has the right scope of knowledge for female physiology. Because the thing is, if you're just putting a Band-Aid over what you're potentially feeling, you're not going into or getting to root cause. And root cause health and wellness is how you're actually able to target what you're going through, what your body is needing more support with, and then essentially really healing it, right? Really getting to the point of figuring out, how do I help myself feel my best by targeting these things inside my body that are imbalanced or that need more support very specifically. And that's really what I've learned in my own life, and what I want to continue to empower other women to do. Because when it comes to things like a mental and emotional well-being, yes, going on an SSRI in certain situations can be extremely beneficial, right? I believe in the power of medication. I believe in the power of getting the support that you need. However, for any and all symptoms that females experience, right, whether that's mental and emotional overwhelm, whether that's really intense cycles, whether that's, fatigue, or any kind of unexplained symptom that essentially can happen as your hormones start to fluctuate, that doesn't have to be the answer, right? That doesn't have to be the thing that we lean on most. So I want to encourage women to go deeper, because I have been able to really uncover some significant imbalances in my own life. And as I put in protocols, or as I put protocols into place, it has changed the game for me. So kind of backing up here a little bit, as I went through the Dutch test and as I went through learning more about how my body metabolizes hormones, right, where I'm deficient, where I need more support, some of the things that I uncovered were that my estrogen was really, really low, like postmenopausal numbers low at 40 years old, right? Estrogen was just incredibly low. My testosterone and my progesterone were also low. Not as low as estrogen, but they were also low. So those three things were really, really interesting indicators for me as far as hormonal fluctuation and why I felt some really intense symptoms, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. The other big thing that I uncovered was my cortisol levels and my adrenals were a little bit fatigued. Not terrible, not totally tanked out, but fatigued enough that I had to pay attention to what I was really doing when it came to protecting my sleep, getting quality rest, making sure that I'm not overdoing it or overtraining in my workouts, making sure that I'm not making sure that I'm fueling correctly or fueling properly so my body feels energized and fueled well. Like all of those things are things I've had to learn and as I've had to get educated about more this year. So with my sex hormones specifically, I've had to really work on supplementation to help those levels, because those levels, when they are bottomed out, or when they're all over the place, even if they're elevated, like symptoms can be similar depending on if they're bottomed out or elevated, but the symptoms are real. And having the fluctuation in hormone levels and having, imbalances in your hormones as a female is a real thing. And it really, really can become, uncomfortable and hard and confusing. And it's especially confusing when you're going to a doctor and they're telling you this is just how it is. They're telling you this is just how it's going to be. This is part of getting older. Welcome to your 40s, like I said, or welcome to midlife. And what I'm learning is that's not how it is. And there are a lot of answers, and there's a lot of healing, and there's a lot of hope in being able to get women connected to the right kind of information, practitioners, and protocols, right? So that kind of brings me to this. This is kind of the purpose of this podcast today. What are the 3 to 5 things you can speak to a doctor about if you feel like you have something off with your hormones, right? You feel these really intense symptoms. Some of the things I've been experiencing personally are really extreme fatigue, irritability and mood swings, rage, low libido, depression, anxiety, debilitating anxiety to the point where I didn't even want to look or say hi to people that I knew out in my community or in the grocery store or whatever, right? Like lots of things like that, hot flashes, headaches, just so many different things. The other big thing for me has been unexplained weight gain, like decrease in muscle mass, and a really large challenge behind trying to create any level of body recomposition or body composition change. And for me, working on my health and wellness is really incredibly important. And I know for a fact through all that I'm studying and through all that I've learned and through so much research, the importance of making sure that you're building muscle mass and that you're working on your physical well-being to really help carry you through longevity and long-term health. And that's a major goal for me. And so again, this bigger picture female health and wellness, I've had to really figure out, okay, what are my symptoms and what are the questions that I need to be asking? What do I need to be researching? How do I get the answers? How do I get direction? And so that's what I want to give you today. So if you're feeling like you've gone to practitioners, or if maybe you're thinking about going to a practitioner and you're like, what do I even talk about? What do I even ask? What are the things that I need to think about? So the first thing is really making sure that you have a good pulse on your cycle, right? Making sure that you understand how long it is, how many days does it last, how intense is the bleed, right? Is it different every month? If you don't have a good understanding or a good picture of that, that is the first place to start, having a much better picture of what's happening with your cycle. Now, I will say, a lot of women come to me and ask about birth control or IUDs and things that they utilize so they don't have a cycle. And here's the thing to understand. When you have something like birth control or IUDs inside your body, you are essentially suppressing the natural rhythms of your hormonal fluctuations. So it's really hard for you to ever get an accurate picture of what's going on with potential imbalances when you have that suppression happening. And so for women who really want to learn more about cycle syncing with their lifestyle and their workouts, or learn more about what kind of hormonal imbalances they may have, or want to learn more about what their body may be needing, on a very natural level, the best thing that you can do is consider getting rid of IUDs, getting rid of birth control, and let your body get back into a natural rhythm so you can really, again, assess what is your body doing? What does it need? And how can you essentially support yourself in the best way possible? So that's the first thing, really getting in touch with your cycles. Again, how long are they? What are they like? How long are they lasting? Are they different every month? Those things are super important. The other big thing is really assessing, how has your cycle potentially changed in the past 3 to 5 years? Was it consistent and now it isn't? Again, those patterns are really important. And then it's really important to think about symptoms and when they're happening. So for me, one of the things that I started to do was I started to think about, okay, now that I'm tracking my cycle and I have a better pulse on what day I'm on, what's happening, what each phase looks like, what are the symptoms that are happening during each kind of phase, right? So during the beginning of my cycle, how's my mood? How's my energy? How's my rest? How do I feel? Do I feel rested? Do I feel energized? Those kinds of things. And then as my cycle went on and I started to learn more about the different phases of the cycle, I was able to, again, really assess when I had different intense symptoms happening and how I could potentially help support them through different lifestyle changes and through the supplemental protocol that I was put on through my functional medicine doctor, right? But that's another big thing to really do. So on top of really learning to track your cycles or really making sure that you have a pulse on what's happening with your cycles, then start to track symptoms. What's happening and when? Is there a trigger involved? Right? Assess your lifestyle habits, assess what happened in the day, assess where you're at during your cycle and how is that affecting how you feel. And then the other big thing to really think about is your top 5 symptoms, right? What are the top 5 symptoms that are the hardest for you to manage right now? What are the most overwhelming? What are the most annoying? What feel like they're impossible to change or make better? These 3 things are crucial to know and talk about and ask your doctor about, right? And have a conversation about when it comes to getting more support, okay? And this is something that a lot of women kind of know, but not really in a lot of aspects. And if I really dig into my own journey, this is the year that I've really started to do this more because I wanted to go deeper on root cause health and get a better understanding of why I was feeling the symptoms I was feeling, no matter what I was changing lifestyle-wise. In the end, it came down to hormonal imbalances and gut health imbalances for me. All of our systems are intertwined, right? And one of the things that I've learned through the Sync community is our gut health is the foundation of what our endocrine system sits on, right? And our endocrine system is the overall system that controls so many of the hormonal functions inside our body, right? The 4 legs of the endocrine system are our sex hormones, our thyroid, our cortisol, and our insulin. And all of that together intertwined affects one another. And as I keep sharing in different episodes of my podcast and on my social feeds, on my website, so much more, we have to get educated as women about what are the different pieces to the endocrine system. How do we work on each piece if it's out of balance? And then essentially, how are we also working on that foundation of what our endocrine system sits on, which is our gut health? And so these 2 pieces are crucial to work on for inside out wellness. And they're really important to work on if you feel like you have some level of imbalances inside your inside your body, inside your day to day, and you're just not feeling like yourself. So again, the 3 things to really think about as you're preparing to maybe talk to a practitioner, or if you feel like you want to go back to your practitioner and talk more about it, is make sure you really know your body, really know your cycle. What's happening? How long? How long's the bleed? And then how has your cycle maybe changed in the last 3 to 5 years? What are the symptoms that are happening alongside your cycle during different days of the month, right? And then what are your top 5 symptoms that you're managing? And if you are working with a practitioner or a doctor that really has a great understanding of female physiology, they're gonna talk to you about different kind of strategic testing you can do and going deeper on getting a bigger picture behind what's going on with your unique body. And quite honestly, if they don't, or if they don't give you the direction of really understanding female hormone health, then let me give you permission to find another practitioner. I am happy to connect you to a community of women who are doing incredible work in this space, right? Who offer consults, who offer testing, who offer so many different ways to get support. I want women to know that there are ways to go deeper for your health, and that just accepting the blanket answer of this is how it is, or just try this medication, or just do this SSRI or birth control doesn't have to be the direction that we go down, right? There is so much power in really understanding and getting in tune with our natural body rhythms. And as females, we have this very unique cyclical nature to what we do every single month, right? And our lifestyle and our habits and what's going on every single day probably is going to feel a little bit different because our body is doing different things. And it's just this incredibly empowered place when you get to this understanding and this lens that you're looking through for your health that says, oh yeah, this is where my body and my brain are at today based on where I'm at in my cyclical nature. And because of that, I'm going to adjust this and I'm going to adjust that, and I'm going to give myself grace for these things. You know, we live in a 24/7 circadian rhythm world, right? Where everything is like clockwork and we're just supposed to kind of continue to grind along. And as females, it can feel really overwhelming and daunting to kind of try to quote unquote keep up with that, because our natural cyclical rhythm does not align with that energy. And it's not exactly the same. It's not identical, which is why we really need to be paying attention to, okay, but what do I personally need in my body and my brain today, this week, this month? Where do I need to adjust? Where do I need to give myself grace? And where do I need to continue to learn and grow? You know, one of the most insanely cool things that I've learned this year through my sync certification is the power of cycle syncing, right? And really understanding what are the different phases of our cycles as females. What are they called? What do they mean? What's happening with our hormones during those phases, if our hormones are fluctuating the way they're supposed to, which is key, right? And then how is that essentially going to make me feel? You know, as I said, my estrogen was in the tank, and my testosterone and my progesterone were in the tank. So again, like my biggest symptoms were things like anxiety, depression, rage. And it's no wonder, because the natural fluctuation of my hormones was not really happening. It was extremely out of balance. And so progesterone, which is the calming hormone, wasn't really rising in the back half of my cycle. And it's no wonder I felt like a ragey, irritable, crazy lady. And then estrogen wasn't really rising ever throughout my cycle. So I never got like that boost and that energizing feeling right after my cycle ended. It was always just kind of this flat line and a lot of irritability and a lot of low mood and a lot of just kind of existing, rather than learning how to feel energized and good and thriving in my day-to-day. And so all this to say, I want you to know you're not alone. I want women to really have this information and understand that you are not alone. This season of our life is real. This shift that happens as we get into midlife is real. The hormonal fluctuations that happen are real. And I am learning that firsthand from amazing practitioners and doctors and people that have so much knowledge on this. And I cannot recommend to you enough the value of going deeper for your health, whatever that may look like. So if you are feeling like, again, you need some sort of direction, you need more resources, you need to connect on what I'm sharing today, please don't hesitate to reach out. You know, in the show notes, you can see my email, you can see my website, you can see, ways to get connected. I would love to hear from you, love to hear your story, love to hear how I could potentially, help you in some way with getting connected to people that can do proper testing, practitioners that have the hormone health knowledge, working with a health coach like me that can really help you evaluate lifestyle habits that you can adjust and change based on your female physiology and what you may uniquely need, right? We're all so different, and health is not one size fits all. And so if I can be one person in this space to give you the knowledge and the education and the understanding to understand, or the information to understand that there are ways to heal and get answers to what you may be managing, there are. I will be the first to tell you that there are. I am living proof, and I am someone who wants to continue to empower women to do this inside out root cause work, because your health is truly, truly worth it. So if you guys could do me a favor, leave a review on the podcast today, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with someone that you feel like could get some level of value inside, from the information I shared inside today. I would be so incredibly grateful. It is such an honor to do this work and to connect with you here. I absolutely love what I do as a coach, what I do as, a female entrepreneur, and I feel so incredibly grateful to be here connecting with you and to share our stories and to work on our health from the inside out every single day. Never forget that your peace of mind matters. I'll see you in the next one.